From the mid-1970s, I had started to become engaged in a wide range of commercial activities outside of my radio and TV work. I was doing store openings, product endorsements, sales conferences, all sorts of corporate work, and it gave me invaluable experience in the business environment because I knew the TV and radio wouldn't go on forever. So I wanted something else that I could turn to. I created a group of companies, a unique group. We were engaged in a wide range of disciplines from TV and radio production through design work, artist representation, putting on big events. My love of aviation took us into helicopter and jet charter. It was a really vibrant group of companies, and I had a corporate lawyer as my partner. He had 20% of Unique Group, and I did all the introductions. I did all the front of house stuff, and we were doing really well. And then in the early 2000s, the relationship with our then bankers, headed up by Mark Dobson, started to sour. And they started to put us under financial pressure, even though we had never breached any of our covenants. We were going totally forward in line with our cash forecasts. But they got heavier and heavier. And they forced me into a really dark space because they required personal guarantees and all sorts of things. And I've been, over the years, very honest and open about the fact that at one stage in January 2005, I attempted to take my own life. I felt hopeless, and I have massive sympathy for anybody who gets into that dark space. When you lose hope, when you are hopeless, there is no reason. You can't be talked out of it. Please, if you know anyone approaching that dark space, get professional help for them, support them, because I've been there and it's a tricky one to come back from. Well, I was very fortunate that in 2005, this great opportunity came with Deal or No Deal, and my life changed forever. However, in 2006, HBOS, as they were then, pushed my group of companies into administration. I lost everything. I put the failure of my businesses down to the simple explanation that I was a crap businessman. And I carried that belief until January 2017, when totally out of the blue, I received an extraordinary phone call that my former bank manager, Mark Dobson, along with 4 associates, had been sent to prison for a total of 50 years. The sudden realization that I hadn't been a crap businessman, but I'd been targeted by criminal bankers, was totally overwhelming. And I wasn't the only victim. Hundreds of other people had their businesses taken, their homes repossessed, and their livelihoods destroyed forever. Unlike me, some had been successful in taking their own lives. None of this would have been revealed without the incredible work undertaken by Paul and Nikki Turner. Lloyds Bank, which had acquired HBOS as part of the 2008 UK banking collapse, promised that all victims of what was called the HBOS Reading fraud would receive appropriate compensation. They said this would happen swiftly. They lied. It took me 5 years of fighting their evil tricks to get back a fraction of my losses. In early 2017, Lord Blackwell, the chairman of Lloyds Banking Group, said that all victims would receive their business losses.
And to offer fair compensation that properly reflects the losses.
He lied. All of the senior management of Lloyds Bank lied. To appear to be good guys, they set up a victims review scheme chaired by a chap called Professor Griggs. It made him sound genuine, qualified, and worldly wise. He was a stooge. He wasn't even a real professor. He was paid a huge sum of money by Lloyds Bank to pretend to be treating everyone fairly and swiftly. I understand that only those who are closely involved in the HBOS Reading crimes and then what subsequently happened with Lloyds Bank are really interested in the detail. But believe me, over the 5-year battle, I experienced the most extraordinary moral corruption from bankers, almost certainly criminal corruption. I came across their lawyers, their highly paid lawyers. We're talking about people who get paid £1,500 an hour, who would happily lie on behalf of their clients. There were only a few elements of the media that were honest and prepared to push the bankers on this issue. Why? Because Lloyds Bank spends so much money with them on their advertising. Luckily for me, the police got involved, Thames Valley Police, who had pursued the original prosecutions, and they recognised that I was a victim of crime. And there were some great people in the background who were working so hard to support the victims. There was the all-party parliamentary group on fair business banking with the excellent MP Kevin Hollinrake. And he was supported by Heather Buchanan, their policy director, and I got to know them really well. And I like to think that they were energised by the way in which I came about fighting these bankers who said they were going to pay losses. Publicly they said it, but privately they were going, nah, we're not doing that. We're not handing over our money. I set up a YouTube channel, in fact 2 TV channels. I had a couple of websites. We were active on social media. We did parodies of the Lloyds banking commercial. They were good. We had a logo. We took their black horse and showed it having a shit, because that's what these bankers were doing to the innocent victims. I attended dozens of meetings, including the Lloyds AGM in Edinburgh.
I tell you, even the Cree twins and Al Capone didn't have this amount of police investigation. Norman, you're quite incredible. I am asking you questions.
This isn't a show, Mr. Edmonds. This is an AGM, and I'd like you to come to your question, please.
Now, Norman, if you want to turn it into a game show, the way you treat us, I would call it pointless. And if you want it to turn into jail or no jail, you are going in the right direction.
Lloyds has apologised to the victims of the HBOS fraud and has set up a compensation scheme and an independent investigation into the Reading scandal.
Whenever there was a debate in Parliament, which of course was not very often, I was always there in the public gallery.
Which alleges that senior managers within the bank were aware of the fraud prior to the takeover and the £14 billion Lloyds and HBOS rights issues. Yet they took clear, deliberate and documented action to conceal it.
When banking executives attended any inquiries into their actions, I was always there with my Lloyds Liars logo, the shitting black horse, proudly displayed on my briefcase. It is widely acknowledged in the UK that from 2017 to the present day, I kept the HBOS Lloyds scandal constantly on the media agenda. My actions, and of course the actions of so many other victims, and particularly Paul and Nikki Turner and the APPG, actually kept the pressure up, and the result was the establishment of the Cranston Review. Yet another of those retired High Court judges who no doubt see this kind of activity as a rather nice bonus to their already fat pension schemes. Except in December 2019, Cranston delivered a bombshell. All of the victims had expected another whitewash, an establishment cover-up. But Cranston actually confirmed what we all knew. There'd been a wonderful, wonderful lady, Sally Masterton, an employee of Lloyds Bank, who did a report for the bank about HBOS Reading and who knew what and whatever. And they had treated her appallingly when she came to the conclusion that when Lloyds took over HBOS, of course the senior management knew about the crimes, but they took a decision to cover them all up. And that cover-up policy went right into the point where Horton Osorio, as I called him, the CEO, and Lord Blackwell in 2017 was saying, oh, so sorry, we'll pay compensation and you can have your losses back. And no, we didn't know anything about the crimes. They were lying, and Cranston said as much. And what came out of the Cranston review, much to the surprise of everybody and to the horror of Lloyds Bank, was another review, this time to be run by David Foskett, Sir David Foskett, a former retired judge. Spoken to him a few times, seems a reasonable cove. And he and two other people would review all of the cases and they would make swift and fair decisions. Unfortunately, all the victims had to sign away their rights if they went into the Foskett review. And I had to. I had to accept that whatever conclusion they came to, that was the full and final settlement. But I and the other victims had no other choice. The Foskett panel is still sitting and there are still victims waiting for a settlement. I can't say anything more at this stage because the true story is even more explosive than the recent docudrama series on ITV in the UK into the corporate criminality of senior executives in the UK Post Office. I can't say anything more because the production company that made that series, which has resulted in so much public and, dare I say it, parliamentary and police attention, now wants to tell the story of HBOS Reading, and I've been invited to contribute my story. I've already explained that it took me 5 years from the point where my bank manager, Mark Dobson, was sent to prison to getting some sort of settlement from Lloyds Bank. And the emotion during the 5 years was very raw at times. And I was always looking for inspiration and support. And I found this image on the internet. And what I did was reproduce it on my websites. And I had a poster on my office wall. And I changed the devil to Lloyds Bank. And the thing about this that really got me was I knew from people within Lloyds Bank, because there were lots of whistleblowers supporting me, that they thought they had beaten me. They thought they could basically put me under so much pressure that they would break me. And so the knight who is kneeling, not in defeat, but the knight who is kneeling in prayer before he rises up, had an incredible significance. And I said to Liz at the height of our fight, she was an incredible support, I said, when we win, not if, when we win, I'm going to get our friend Richard Taylor at Weta. I'm going to ask Weta Studios, the famous Weta Studios, to make a statue of the knight. And that's what I did. Richard made some design changes. His artists were absolutely incredible. I had, unfortunately, to have Guardian, as I call him, cast in China because there isn't a foundry here in New Zealand that can do the work. But one day he arrived in a crate. It was a very gloomy, misty day, and the truck came and the crate was brought to the top of the hill where we had the special place prepared. And Liz prayed to the heavens and did some sort of whirly thing. She's got an incredible positive energy. And suddenly there was blue sky for just long enough for Guardian to be put in position. And I chose the inscription on the sword to reflect my attitude to life. I believe the purpose of life is to give life purpose. And the Latin inscription translated says, "May I not shrink from my purpose." I didn't want the knight to be a symbol of aggression because I hate violence. I wanted Guardian to be protective because conceptually, emotionally, spiritually, he had already protected me. Liz designed the shield.
So this basically represents our story, and so in the centre we have the oak tree with its roots going down and the branches reaching up to the skies and the heavens above. The oak tree for me represents from little acorns come big things and strength and power and wisdom. Obviously in the centre we have the Sacred Heart, so you have to have love in this. And then we have the 4 elements. So we have here air, fire, earth, and water. And so representing the air is the swan, and the swan is the first bird that again represents peace and love. It predates the dove. Also we have the Kiwi New Zealand fern, which also represents eternity. The phoenix represents out of the ashes we rose up, basically, and again had to have a lot of strength and determination. With the roots going down to the earth element, we have the web, so the universal web, and how everything is connected in life. And then with water here, we have the deep depths basically, and the ice wall. While we were fighting, the ice wall for me represents that the people that we were dealing with were as cold as ice, and basically didn't seem to have compassion, love or empathy. And then again with the mushrooms, again that represents the energy and information through the web of life, and information with nature, connecting everything through the root system. And then at the top, obviously we have the heavens, the sun and the moon, again yin and yang and karma. So yeah, this is a very brief story of us.
A second guardian statue is now positioned at the top of the vineyard at River Haven, in our friendship garden, gratitude garden. My thinking is that other people will be inspired and comforted. There's something about Guardian that lifts one's spirits, and I'm hoping that people who are maybe feeling a bit down are lifted up. He's there to support the marginalised, the victimised. He's there to support the demoralised, people who feel that life is not worth living. The magic of Guardian is at River Haven now for everybody to experience.